Hi, this is John Marshall, the DrillMaster. This time I have an exhibition drill tandem to critique. A bit different. So far I've done some colors, and that's pretty much it. So if you have exhibition drill, if you have platoon, squad, flight, element, by all means send it in. I'll critique. All right. Or even a colors presentation, drill team performance, downtown or something like that. Anyway, this video is brought to you by Exhibition Drill for the Military Drill Team, my first book that I wrote. Started it in 1990, didn't publish it until 2009. So 19 years. It's not too bad for a book, I guess. Anyway, here we go. So this is an armed duel is such a weird name. I prefer tandem, but that's okay. Armed exhibition duel. So this is either 1 or 2 years old, but the individuals who sent it in really wanted my feedback because they are actually coaches now. So, or at least one's a coach. All right, so I'm going to get to this right now. Now, I just want to say I haven't watched it yet. I started playing the first few seconds, but I backed it up, so I haven't seen really anything of this 2 minute and 45-second video. Here we go.
Present. Arms.
Nice
Sergeant,
timing there.
Spanish Springs High School,
Little
armed
bit
duel exhibition.
lacking.
Reporting in. Requesting
Also,
permission to utilize your
see
drill
a
pad for the
bit
sequence of this performance.
rifle
Sergeant.
rotation for
Thank you, Sergeant.
the officer cadet here. Neat exchange. Yeah, that's good. Something that is a bit different. So on the exchange here, let me pause this. On that last exchange, let me show you right here. So this is a shoulder exchange. Notice he's already actually coming off. So the shoulder right here, he's coming off his shoulder already to launch that rifle. And notice the elbow here too. So there's a little bit of a technique issue, but as long as you're both doing the same thing, then it's not that big of a deal. But he's early, so or you're late, so either one. Now, what I wanted to say was that so they're standing in front of each other, right here, and they're going to launch from the shoulder. So the launch should be a slight drop and then a push off. Now, you need to concentrate for any exchange. But especially one that's separated like this, which requires a distance, a toss over a distance. You need to concentrate 100%, 100%. Now, what on earth does that mean? That means that until your rifle leaves your hand, you need to concentrate on your technique and the rifle 100%. It doesn't matter what's coming towards you. Until your rifle leaves your hand, you need to make sure that you are doing your utmost best to ensure that that rifle leaves your hand properly. Because if it doesn't, then you'll end up like there was a YouTube video from many years ago. I'm pretty sure it's been taken down. I'm not exactly positive on that, but I would think so. The Air Force Academy had a practice, the drill team, and there were 4 members, and they had these big, I don't know what they were, these big cushion things on top of their rifles, which actually is a little silly. But they were practicing exchanges. They were a group of 4 cadets, and one of the cadets was so concerned, a male cadet was so concerned about the female cadet across from him tossing the rifle across. There was 4 of them, 2 tossed this way and then 2 tossed this way. Well, that's what was supposed to happen. But he was so concerned that he as he was tossing the rifle, he was already ready to receive the rifle here. So whatever happened with his rifle is just whatever happened with his rifle. It's like he didn't even care. He wasn't even concentrating on it at all. Well, it ended up, I'll use the pen. His rifle ended up smacking her right in the face, square in the face. She dropped like a hot potato. Unfortunately, it was really a bad situation. So, and that's several years ago. And this is not a dig at the Air Force Academy or the drill team or anything like that. But it is a dig at the one cadet, though, and he wasn't trained properly. So, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just an example here that if you don't concentrate on the rifle, on your technique, then you don't have any business doing what these two are doing here. You don't have any business whatsoever, especially in an exchange. So now, what's the second 100%? The second 100% is as soon as that rifle leaves your hand, now your 100% attention goes to the rifle that's coming towards you. So if you're both doing your job, 100%, 100%, everything's fine. Not a big deal. All right, here we go. A little bit better. And you can tell since the enlisted cadet here had to step out considerably to catch, then the officer cadet here wasn't really doing 100% of his job. Excuse me. You need to aim properly and make sure that rifle lands where it's supposed to land. Now, are you going to do that 100% of the time? No. But having that wide of a gap between your receiver and the rifle, that's a bit much. When I watch spinning like this, I'm looking at the hands and I'm also looking at the hips. So we've got, watch the hands here. Watch this hand right here. Come on. See, it's kind of flailing a little bit. So the free hand, there's cadets wonder what they're supposed to do with the free hand. You either pin it or you have it do something purposeful. Just having it flail there. Now, when you're starting out, obviously you're going to be concentrating, watching and catching the rifle, and this hand can float out here, and you have no idea what it's going on. But as you gain better understanding of your multiple responsibilities, then while you're spinning here, this hand can be pinned, the left can be pinned, or it can be ready to come up and catch, however you want to do it. It's up to you, and it's your ideas that can really be communicated across to your audience. But my point is that either your free hand, whichever hand it is either pinned or doing something purposeful. All right? So technique was slightly different on that, and it was a little repetitive. So there's a slight difference in you standing and picking the rifle up and spinning it up so that you're standing erect, but then you go back down, and then you go back down again. So I would guard against repetition like that. Now, when you have repetition that is slightly different, like going from the kneeling position to erect, and then bending over and going back to erect, stop right there. That's good. That's okay for that repetition. But to repeat it yet again, you're bordering on you're bordering on losing your audience. Although the performance like this is so short that you're less likely to risk that kind of thing. So
Ready.
So look at the hand positions here as I point to my screen so that you can't see it. Hand is way up here. His hand is right at nose level. So big difference here. And so far, it looks like this is a corner. So we've got our Marine judging there, and maybe this was the entrance box. But you haven't moved. Well, maybe it's not the entrance box. Maybe it's just part of the parking lot. Yeah, I guess so. So, but you really haven't moved all that much. And I don't know the dimensions of... I'm trying to see... I don't know the dimensions of where you're drilling, but I would assume that this is a back... probably the back line. This is maybe one of the side lines, and your judge is probably over towards the camera somewhere. Maybe on this, the opposite line from here, quite possibly. And I'm trying to judge that as far as how you're facing each other. But this lack of movement and use of the drill pad is a little detrimental for your performance, and I'll try and briefly tell you why. So your staging, that's what this is called. Your staging matters to your audience. So you have to pick a side where your audience is, and usually the side where the head judge is, and the head judge actually really should stay in place and not move around. Other judges could move, but the head judge should stay in place for every single performance, whether it's exhibition or regulation drill. So you should consider that side your perform to side. Just like having a stage, you only perform out to your audience here. Now, stages usually have a bit of a curve to them, but the point is that you perform this way. All right? So here you would be performing away from the Marine. The Marine is she is standing at an angle, but if she were to make a half left face, that's your perform to side. She would be facing that perform to side. So just like having a stage. So when you're executing these very fast, very unique movements that require a good deal of attention, when you're doing this and you're far away from your audience, let's say, and I'm going to assume this is the back side of the your performance area, when when you're performing these moves away from your audience, they're losing that effect. So you've got fast spinning going on. The exchanges are fine back here, but this fast, quick movement, rifle manipulation away from your audience is lost a little bit. It's not as effective as if you're closer. And I'm trying to orient myself with the video here, but if you're closer to your audience, it's going to be more effective. It's the smaller, quicker movements are less effective the farther you are away from your audience. And likewise, these big movements, even exchanges sometimes, can be lost on your audience when you're closer to them. So staging really matters. Now, there's the two ways that you can move around the area. If you're whether you're a soloist or a tandem or larger team, allowing the rifles or rifle to move you around your drill area, that's effective. What's contrived is when you try and you both face the same direction and then you march over to the front, let's say the front right corner, as opposed as to where the head judge is. So you march up here and you're at that front right corner and you start to drill. Well, that's contrived, but drilling towards the front right corner, if you want to go there, using the rifle to direct you there, creating movement that brings you to there. It looks natural, and that is much more effective. So you want effective work, and you want effective staging. There's a lot more to judging, but I'm not going to get into it here with an almost 3-minute performance. It would just take way too long. Anyway, so there's variation here with the hand height and rifle height, as opposed to the driller. I know there's a disparity in height with a small disparity between the two drillers. That's not a big deal. But then there's also, let's see what we have here. We have 1:07. You haven't moved out of this corner. 1:07. And in 1:07, you could go everywhere within the drill area. See this fast movement. The marching back and forth isn't lost, but the fast spinning can be lost on the.
Ready. Move.
So, catching with the knees bent is, I would expect that on a lesser skilled driller. So you haven't, and I know this is an old performance in that you're both out of high school, but catching your rifle and bending your knees to absorb that shock, that's a lesser skilled driller's move. That's when that happens, which is fine. I'm not trying to take anything away from the lesser skilled drillers. You start to build up a tolerance and the ability to absorb the shock of stopping the rifle when you're spinning or tossing. You build that up over time. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't become a world-class driller or even a state-class driller overnight. It takes years. It takes at least one to get thoroughly competitive, and then around 2-year mark, then you can start drilling at that state level to where you can, and that's if you drill just about every day for a couple hours a day. So and some cadets do that, and that's awesome. You get that love for it, and that's all you want to do, and that's fine. It's a discipline, and it's a great hobby. So I would expect with the level of spinning that I've seen and the ability to execute a couple of exchanges and have some creative ideas flowing here, I would expect you to not bend your knee. One of the things that you've done so far is
Ready. Move.
pretty much this. Excuse me. You've done completely synchronized tandem work and not really played off of each other. Tandem work definitely has its place and is effective. However, tandem work over time tends to get, even in such a short performance, it tends to get a little monotonous to watch. So being able to execute, let's say, 16 or even 36 counts of playing off of each other to where you're doing different things, but then end up synchronized at the end, that can create intrigue and audience engagement. So that's one of the main things you want to do, is engage your audience effectively. So the synchronized tandem work, awesome stuff, but being able to play off of each other as well really helps create those highs and lows, which is what you want in a visual performance. All right, so let's talk about the rifles here. See the angle of this rifle here and the angle of this rifle, totally different. So that means one of you either started a little early or late, or you're using different technique. And I would say that one of you probably started a little early, because look at the arms here and the hands. They're very close to being exactly the same, which is great. So that tells me that both of you are using the same technique to create the same effect, which is exactly what you're supposed to do. However, the timing is what is working against you here. So I would also expect you to not execute an about face. This is beginning type stuff. So rather than executing an about face, you both could have marched forward and then had one of you move to where you are right now much more effectively, and actually it would have pulled you out of this corner. Now, I don't know, I really wish I knew if you only had like a 5-foot box basically to drill in. And it doesn't look like it's just 5 feet, but sometimes around the country there are some pretty strange requirements for exhibition drill, and you just even soloists can only stand still. They only have a 2-foot square box in which they can move, which is really strange. But you need to use whatever area you have. You know, if it's a 30 by 30, then great. Then you need to use that as effectively as possible. And so far, based on the little bit that I can see of the box, you're not using your space effectively. That difference in speed there was really nice. So being able to spin the rifle really quickly, stop it, bring it to port, and then have that hand slide down. That was a great mix of tempo. So in a visual performance, another thing you also want to do is mix up your tempo. Spin really fast. Do some fast marching, some fast movements, and then go into something slow. So again, you have the highs and the lows to keep your audience engaged all the time. So there's all kinds of things that you can do to keep your audience engaged, and it works at multiple levels. And then when everything comes together, that synergistic effect of everything that I just mentioned, putting all of that together, the staging and the tempo and everything, it just really works well. And your performance then becomes more than actually what it is.
Sergeant! Spanish Springs High School Armed Duel Exhibition reporting out. Requesting permission to exit your drill pad. Sergeant!
Carry on.
Thank you, Sergeant!
Slide. All right. So let me see. Oh, okay. All right. So you had
Sergeant!
had some.
Carry on.
Yeah, you
Thank
had
you,
some room
Sergeant!
here. And most likely, if it was square, then yeah, you really did yourselves a disservice by staying in this little box here. You had a fantastic performance, really quite good, but there's so much more that really could have been brought out. And anyway, so there's so much to think of here, and you'll probably rewatch this a few times and try and get the each set of of the different aspects of the visual performance here that I was talking about, and that's a good thing. Once you start to understand these concepts, then you can make your performance so much better. So one of the things that I did want to go over
Spanish Springs High School Armed Duel Exhibition.
right here.
Sergeant!
You're doing different stuff, and that's great. Do you see how? Anyway, watch this.
Sergeant!
Both of you caught at the same time, but you were doing totally different work. That was great. That was very effective there. Very nice. That really worked well. And had you included moments throughout the performance there of opposite work playing off of each other, then there's massive potential with this performance. Although not that it was awful, not saying that at all. It was a really good performance. Very good. And most cadets will create something along these lines that is just wonderful to look at. And it gives judges a difficult time weeding through all of these performances at this level and finding out who was the best by 1 or 2 points. Although on the one hand, you could have 3,000 points at one drill meet and then go across the city to another drill meet the same day, and you have 50 points, and both of them won first place. So it's a little strange out there right now, but hopefully we can get that all situated eventually. But nice performance. I really appreciate the thought, the teamwork that went on here. I can honestly see that there was lots of work put in on this. You didn't just come in there and monkey drill around and try and come up with something. Some soloists do that, and I've even known some tandems to actually do that, and it doesn't work. Some soloists who are very, very good can just pull that off and without any prep, but they've been drilling for so long, they have such a large movement vocabulary, not a big deal. However, most of us who have ever picked up a rifle, we're not like that. We got to put in a lot of work, but I can see it here. You put in time to train, you put in time to practice, you planned, and well done. All right, hope my comments have been helpful. Thank you.
Spanish Springs High School Armed Duel Exhibition. Reporting out. Requesting permission to exit your drill pad. Sergeant.
Carry on.
Thank you, Sergeant.